Morning. My name is Jing. I first met Charlie in 1971. We were both freshmen in high school. We were both 14 years old. I know exactly how old Charlie was because he was born April 16, 1957. I was born April 4, 1957. So every year, when it's my birthday, I remember Charlie for the last 50 years. Now, Charlie in high school, he was an honor student. Very smart kid. He could discuss anything under the sun. But he wasn't a nerd like me. See, Charlie was also an athlete. So in grade school, he played basketball with De La Salle. And then in high school, he was in the track team. So, what did he look like back then? He was tall for a Filipino. He stood about 5'9", although he always insisted that he was 5'10". And Charlie had long, wavy hair that went down to his shoulders. He wore glasses. He was lean. He was never muscular. And he had that, he wasn't arrogant, but in Filipino jargon, he medyo mayabang. Because he would look at you like this. That was Charlie. But the Charlie I knew, he was never arrogant. He could talk to anyone. And he could discuss English lit with our teacher, Miss Viola, or he could talk about sports with, the most popular athletes in our class. So in college, we both went to the University of the Philippines. And that's where Charlie met the love of his life, Vicky Castillo. Now, I joined the fraternity first, and then I recruited Charlie. His group was the first one where the brothers were allowed to make the neophytes streak. So, with Charlie's group, Unimart is where we went to do this. Because with Unimart, there was an entrance on the left side for the neophytes to come in, and an exit on the other side. So they would bring this neophytes, they were naked, in one car. They would drop them off in one side, and then they were supposed to run across the supermarket. But there was a problem with this group, because some of them refused to run. They wanted to walk. So the broads panicked, because there was another car waiting at the other. So this was the group that Charlie joined. Now, Charlie's mom, he called her Inay, and she was a beautiful person. And Charlie's mom, his dream was that Charlie would go into medicine. And I knew this because when I was living with his family, he showed me the stethoscope that his mom bought for him, even when he was in high school. He said, "Look at this, Jing. I'm supposed to go into medicine." But Charlie, his heart wasn't in medicine. He wanted to go into business. So that dream was set aside. Now, as graduation approached in college, Charlie took me aside and said, "What are your plans after graduation?" At that time, I was a working student. I worked for Salvador Lopez, the former UP president, and I was his personal secretary. He was batch 33, so. But I told Charlie, I really want to go into medicine. The problem is, if I quit my job, I don't know if I can support myself. So Charlie, without any hesitation, he said, "No problem, Jing. You live with me. You live with my family. We'll take care of you. And you go into medicine if you want." So he didn't say, "Let me think about it. Let me talk to my inay." No. He said, "You live with me. I need a roommate. I have an extra bed." And so, because of his kindness, his compassion, I was able to go. I was able to enroll in medicine, and I became a doctor because of Charlie. Now, after I finished medicine, I was an intern at the Philippine General Hospital. That's when Charlie was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. Now, end-stage renal disease basically means your kidney is not working anymore. And so Charlie he wanted to talk to me. So I remember our conversation. It was right there in Santa Ana, Manila, in their apartment. And he had one big concern. He said, "Will Vicky and I, will we have children?" That was all he wanted to know. Will we have children? And I was an ignorant intern. I didn't know what to say. So I said, "You have to consider the possibility that you may not." So, but Charlie refused to concede. He said, "Well, we'll see. We'll see." Okay. That was one thing he would not concede, that he would never have a family of his own. So, after the diagnosis, Vicky and Charlie moved to Orlando. I moved to New York City. I became a cancer doctor. And I kept track of Charlie. So this was a person with end-stage renal disease. He had to undergo dialysis. And then he had a renal transplant. And then the transplant failed. So, of course, you could go back into hemodialysis again, look for another donor. You got a second transplant. Now, when you get a transplant, you have to suppress the immune system so the new kidney is not rejected. But that immune suppression can cause cancer because you're lowering the defenses. And so after that, Charlie developed an aggressive form of lymphoma, which is a cancer of the lymph nodes. So I kept track of this. And when I was in practice, I knew that a cancer diagnosis can really destroy your life. You know, people get depressed, they lose hope, they become cynical. They ask, "Why me?" So when I visited Charlie in Orlando, I was expecting him to be suffering from the same things. But I was surprised because the Charlie I saw, he was actually happy. He was so proud of his 3 children. He was so happy. He was so in love with Vicky. And he was going to start a new business. So I said, what gives? Why is this guy not even depressed? Right? So I thought about it. And I thought, really, Charlie has a secret weapon, right? And that secret weapon, of course, is Vicky. Vicky Aveleda is the secret weapon. I remember the day when Charlie talked to me. This was in Manila. He said, Vicky and I are getting married. And because I was a close friend, I could speak frankly with Charlie. And I said, Charlie, why would Vicky want to marry you? Your future is unknown. Okay? She marries you, she'll be spending her time in doctor's offices, in recovery rooms, waiting for you to get better. Yeah. So, unknown to some people is that back then, Vicky actually had a choice. She could have walked away. She could have said, Carlos, I am not doing this. Okay, I am too pretty. I want to enjoy life. I don't want to do this. But Vicky, she said none of that. Now, I remember about 3 years ago, I was 65 then, and Charlie was about 65 too. And I was streaming a movie on Netflix. It was a romantic comedy. And I said, boy, this actress is really attractive. She's beautiful. But you know, she looks like Vicky. So I took my phone, I took a picture of the actress, and immediately I texted to Charlie, and I said, Charlie, she looks like Vicky. And his response, it was almost like he was insulted that I compared Vicky to a beautiful actress. Okay. And I was thinking, how old is this guy? This guy is 65 years old. He's been married to the same person for more than 30 years. And you're telling me he's still in love with her? He thinks she's prettier than this Hollywood actor. So, in my mind, what is the story of Charlie Aveleda? Charlie's life is basically a love story. It's about a person who was cut down in the prime of his life with adversity, with challenges that would have been too much for other people. But he prospered, he survived, and he was able to do it because of Vicky, because of Vicky's love, and because of Charlie's love for Vicky. As long as Vicky was next to him, it didn't matter what happened. He was going to face it. So that, to me, is the story of Charlie Aveleda, a love story.